What you are looking at right now was never supposed to air on TV. The History Channel has been guarding this footage, but the internet just found it. This is the exact moment Oak Island's legendary Templar Chamber finally cracked open. But when the cameras first breached the wall, the team froze. The chamber looked completely, devastatingly empty. Or was it? Because what the crew missed in the first 60 seconds is about to rewrite 200 years of history. Behind that false wall lies the real reason why millions were spent on this island. Don't blink, because we are breaking down the leaked footage frame by frame, right now. The atmosphere inside the chamber felt impossibly dense, saturated with the weight of forgotten centuries, as though the silence of 1,000 years had been waiting for this exact moment. As the camera zoomed closer, Rick Lagina's voice echoed through the live broadcast, shaking with emotion. Everything we believed about this place is about to change. Viewers expected to witness a hidden cache of coins, or perhaps an ancient chest overflowing with jewels, but what emerged on the screens was something no one could have predicted. As the robotic explorer ventured farther into the darkness, it uncovered an extraordinary network of machinery. Massive iron gears meshed with weathered wooden pulleys, intricate pressure mechanisms sealed beneath hardened resin, and an engineering design so sophisticated it seemed impossible for the 14th century. Strange pipes protruded from the stone walls with no obvious purpose, while towering levers and enormous counterweights stood silently as if guarding secrets lost to history. Deep within the structure, a mysterious glow flickered steadily. Not powered by electricity, but by an unknown chemical process that had somehow survived the passage of centuries. The entire excavation team stood motionless in disbelief. This was no ordinary treasure chamber. It appeared to be a vault built around an immense machine, perhaps designed to protect something far more valuable, or even to perform a function no one yet understood. Questions immediately swept across the broadcast. Had the Knights Templar truly hidden gold beneath Oak Island? Or had they concealed an invention or knowledge so extraordinary they wanted it erased from history? Despite growing unease, there was no turning back. One of the ancient levers was activated, its massive counterweight crashing against the stone walls. The thunderous sound echoed through the cavern before another hidden doorway slowly opened. As cameras focused on the newly revealed passage, the long-awaited treasure finally came into view with breathtaking impact. Heavy wooden crates, reinforced with iron bands and sealed with hardened wax, were carefully forced open by the workers. Their contents spilled across the chamber floor in a dazzling flood of unimaginable wealth. Gold bars stacked in perfect rows gleamed beneath the powerful floodlights, their polished surfaces scattering brilliant reflections in every direction. Thousands of ancient coins cascaded across the stone like waterfalls of metal. Byzantine, Moorish, Spanish pieces bearing the marks of civilizations long vanished, jewel-covered chalices rolled from shattered chests, emeralds sparkling brilliantly alongside golden crosses, ornate crowns, and priceless relics adorned with sapphires and precious stones. Experts examining the discovery could barely contain their astonishment. Speaking through trembling voices, they estimated that the visible collection alone was worth well over $250 million, emphasizing that this represented only the uppermost layer of an even larger deposit still buried beneath. Yet, amid the overwhelming display of riches, certain details began to unsettle the investigators. Many of the gold bars carried mysterious symbols, unlike any known royal mint or historical treasury. These unusual markings resembled coded identifiers rather than ownership stamps, leading some experts to wonder whether the gold itself had served as part of an elaborate system of hidden information instead of simple currency. As the camera slowly swept across the glittering mountain of treasure, an uncomfortable feeling settled over the crew. Something about the discovery felt incomplete. Rather than marking the end of the mystery, the gold seemed almost like a carefully arranged distraction, a brilliant lure intended to capture attention while concealing something infinitely more important deeper inside the vault. It was then that someone noticed dark shapes concealed behind the towering stacks of treasure. Hidden in the shadows stood rows of iron chests, sealed shut and arranged with remarkable precision, almost as though the mountains of gold had been deliberately placed to hide them from view. When workers finally broke the ancient seals and lifted the heavy lids, the chamber surrendered its greatest secret. Wrapped carefully in oil-treated animal skin were bundles of manuscripts that remained astonishingly well preserved, protected from moisture and decay, as though their creators had mastered the art of preserving knowledge forever. With trembling hands, historians carefully unrolled the fragile documents beneath the harsh white floodlights. One parchment contained lines of Aramaic text stretching from edge to edge, describing passages from forgotten Gospels never acknowledged by the established church. Others blended ancient Latin prayers with remarkably detailed mechanical illustrations, drawings of winged machines, rotating fortress defenses, and technological concepts that appeared centuries before. History says they should have existed. Another manuscript revealed lines of ancient Greek text flowing across the parchment, detailing celestial alignments and cryptic mathematical formulas that no expert present could immediately interpret. Then, without warning, the entire chamber grew silent. One of the smaller iron chests finally yielded as its rusted clasp snapped apart, allowing a single codex to slide onto the stone floor. Though its leather cover had split with age, an unmistakable red wax seal remained intact. Historians recognized the emblem at once. It belonged to Pope Clement V, the very pontiff remembered for disbanding the Knights Templar under immense political pressure from the French monarchy. The discovery sent shockwaves through everyone watching. How could the seal of the Pope associated with the downfall of the Templars end up hidden inside a secret vault beneath Oak Island? Could this forgotten codex prove that Clement V had secretly preserved documents intended to vanish forever? Archaeologists and scholars exchanged stunned glances as whispers spread through the live microphones. This was no longer about hidden riches. It had become the recovery of forbidden knowledge, information that could challenge centuries of accepted history and force a complete re-examination of the foundations of Western civilization. Yet the ancient writings proved to be only part of the mystery. As researchers carefully documented the discoveries, a series of bizarre events began unfolding across Oak Island itself. Sensitive monitoring equipment on the surface suddenly malfunctioned without explanation. Seismographs detected deep, low-frequency vibrations that bore no resemblance to natural geological activity. Compasses refused to point north, their needles spinning wildly in unpredictable circles. One technician studying the bedrock reported feeling a slow but constant pulse spreading beneath the island, as though the underground chamber had transformed into a gigantic, resonating instrument. Inside the vault, the atmosphere became increasingly unsettling. Several crew members insisted they could hear faint voices drifting through the stone corridors. Not radio interference, but distant chanting that seemed ancient and strangely alive. Some believed the language sounded like medieval French, while others identified fragments of Latin. Regardless of interpretation, everyone agreed on one thing. The sounds felt present, not like echoes from history, but as if they were still somehow continuing. Marty suggested the phenomenon was nothing more than electronic interference bouncing unpredictably through the enclosed structure. Rick, however, remained completely still, his expression growing pale as he listened with intense concentration. After several moments, he quietly proposed a different theory. This wasn't accidental interference at all. The chamber itself had been deliberately engineered as a resonant system capable of activating warnings, or perhaps defenses, when disturbed. Suddenly, the legendary curse of Oak Island no longer seemed like simple folklore. Instead, it appeared to be an ingenious security mechanism created by builders whose understanding of acoustics, architecture, and engineering far exceeded anything historians had imagined. Their mastery of stone and sound may have allowed them to protect their secrets long after their civilization disappeared. While investigators argued over the strange phenomenon, an entirely new concern emerged beyond the excavation site. Under the pale glow of moonlight, unidentified vessels quietly appeared offshore. Their navigation lights remained dark as they drifted silently across the bay, offering no indication of identity or purpose. Drone footage captured shadowy figures dressed in black, observing the operation through advanced night vision optics from a distance. At nearly the same moment, the Lagina brothers began receiving an unsettling flood of alerts. Anonymous messages, unexplained photographs, and fragments of forgotten documents arrived from unknown sources, all referring to an ancient organization said to have watched over Oak Island for generations. What had once sounded like myth suddenly seemed terrifyingly real. Among the incoming messages, one stood above the rest. A coded transmission appeared directly within the expedition's communication system, while a handwritten copy mysteriously surfaced inside the camp only minutes later, delivered by unseen hands. Once translated, its message was chilling in its simplicity. "You have opened what was never yours to open." The words sent a wave of fear through everyone present. This was not an invitation to negotiate. It was a declaration that the treasure, the manuscripts, and every relic hidden beneath the island belonged to an ancient guardianship protected across countless generations. Their responsibility had never ended. From the outer edges of the excavation site, silent figures continued watching. They wore no badges, no insignias, and carried no visible signs of authority. Yet, their presence alone conveyed unmistakable purpose. The incredible discoveries beneath Oak Island were not abandoned relics waiting to be claimed. They were treasures bound by an oath that had survived centuries, one that recognized neither governments, legal systems, nor worldwide television broadcasts. And now that the ancient seal had finally been broken, it became painfully clear that uncovering the treasure was only the first chapter. The true battle over Oak Island and the secrets buried beneath it was just beginning, with consequences that would soon reach far beyond the island's isolated shores. Only a few days after the discovery, the Vatican could no longer remain in the shadows. As leaked photographs, translated passages, and coded fragments from the mysterious manuscripts spread across the internet, church historians in Rome found themselves under immense pressure. Eventually, they acknowledged that several of the texts recovered from Oak Island closely resembled documents quietly recorded centuries ago in confidential ecclesiastical inventories and preserved within the secret archives of the Vatican. The revelation itself was not what unsettled officials. It was the fact that the world was finally seeing it. Artifacts recovered beneath the soil of Nova Scotia appeared to match descriptions hidden deep inside ancient papal records. Sacred chalices believed to have been taken during the Crusades, reliquaries rumored to contain the remains of unnamed saints, and manuscripts sealed away during the persecution and dissolution of the Knights Templar all seemed to align with the newly uncovered discoveries. Suddenly, the Guardian's warning carried undeniable weight, and concern spread throughout Rome over what the ongoing global broadcast might reveal. If the codices contained suppressed Gospels or detailed plans for technologies centuries ahead of their time, the implications could shake the very foundations of long-established religious history. The Pope addressed the world in a carefully worded public statement, yet his remarks were remarkably vague. Rather than discussing treasure or ancient relics, he emphasized the importance of treating discoveries connected to sacred heritage with the utmost caution. The carefully chosen language sounded less like reassurance and more like a subtle instruction. Observers immediately questioned why the Vatican refused to directly address the gold or the manuscripts. What truth was so dangerous that silence seemed preferable? After that brief announcement, no further comments emerged from Rome, and the absence of explanation became more powerful than any denial. To many watching, it appeared increasingly clear that the Church's true interest lay not in material wealth, but in knowledge capable of rewriting centuries of accepted doctrine with a single translated passage. As scholars continued examining the fragile manuscripts, another astonishing revelation surfaced. Hidden between folded pages were elaborate maps unlike anything expected. They were not ordinary geographical charts, but carefully illustrated star maps stretching across the Atlantic Ocean like an enormous celestial web. Historians analyzed the intricate patterns and soon realized the symbols followed deliberate geometric alignments rather than artistic decoration. The parchments revealed a vast triangular network connecting Oak Island with Portugal, Jerusalem, and even remote regions of South America. When researchers overlaid the coordinates onto modern satellite charts, an extraordinary lattice emerged, spanning continents with remarkable precision. Some theorized that the Knights Templar had not mapped commercial trade routes, but ancient energy corridors, the mysterious ley lines discussed for decades within esoteric traditions. The implications were breathtaking. Oak Island might not represent a solitary hidden vault, but merely one location within a worldwide network of secret repositories containing treasure, sacred relics, and forgotten knowledge. If the maps proved authentic, the chamber valued at hundreds of millions of dollars was merely the first piece of an enormous global puzzle. The repeated references to guardianship and secrecy suddenly made perfect sense. Rather than hiding wealth in one place, the Templars may have strategically distributed their legacy across a carefully designed planetary grid, intended to remain hidden until the proper key unlocked its meaning. Several experts suggested such knowledge could reshape geopolitics itself. Whoever gained control of this network would possess influence not only over history, but potentially over hidden resources, ancient technologies, and truths humanity had never been meant to uncover. As news of these theories spread, media organizations around the world erupted with non-stop coverage. Headlines proclaimed the greatest treasure discovery in modern history, while broadcasters debated whether Oak Island had the power to transform archaeology, religion, and global politics all at once. Social media exploded as millions joined the conversation. Hashtags related to Oak Island, Templar Gold, and secret Vatican archives surged across every platform, fueling endless speculation. Conspiracy theories multiplied at astonishing speed. Some insisted the treasure was never intended as wealth, but served as the foundation of a hidden world order. Others claimed the mysterious symbols stamped onto the gold bars were not ownership marks, but coded activation keys tied to a larger mechanism that would awaken as additional vaults around the globe were uncovered. Across countless online discussions, people debated whether humanity had unknowingly entered a centuries-old conspiracy, finally reaching its climax. Even financial markets began reacting to the uncertainty. Economists warned that the mere possibility of vast hidden reserves of gold could destabilize global pricing if additional vaults were ever discovered. Analysts speculated that investors might lose confidence in traditional bullion, should history suddenly release centuries of concealed wealth into circulation. Within days, major investment firms quietly adjusted their strategies, increasing positions in digital assets and cryptocurrencies. Not necessarily because they believed them safer, but because confidence in precious metals had become clouded by the unknown. If more underground repositories existed, how could anyone accurately estimate the true supply of gold? Rick's frustration finally erupted before television cameras. If these discoveries disappear behind closed doors, then the real story of Oak Island disappears with them. Everything we've dedicated our lives to will be lost. His emotional statement quickly spread across social media, inspiring public support and widespread outrage. Yet, within government offices and executive boardrooms, public opinion carried little weight compared to strategic interests. While these legal and political struggles intensified above ground, excavation teams continued exploring the underground complex. There, they uncovered an astonishing new feature: a narrow secondary passage concealed behind collapsed stone and debris that had escaped notice during the initial excavation. Ground-penetrating radar traced the tunnel deeper beneath the island than anyone had imagined. At its far end stood another sealed doorway, completely coated in hardened layers of molten lead, silently guarding whatever final secret had remained untouched for centuries. The real treasure was never the gold. It was the secret buried beneath it. As the cameras shut down and the excavation paused, the enormous sealed chamber remained untouched, its mysterious vibrations echoing through the island. The world celebrated the discovery of treasure, but those who stood inside the vault knew the greatest mystery had yet to be revealed, and perhaps some secrets were never meant to be uncovered.